What's up, guys? Welcome back to the rating climb. Average Joe is 1191. We're going to cross 1200 today. And I do want to make an announcement. My course, Breaking 1500, which has been closed for several months, is now opening again today. There's a link in the description, or you can go to breaking1500.com. And in honor of that opening, I'm going to actually play the openings that I recommend in the course. Okay, so I recommend Stonewall as white and the Owens defense as black. So I'm going to be playing a couple of those games today, so you can kind of get a taste of what I recommend. That's just one small section of the course. Of course, we talk about tactics, we talk about middle game strategy, we talk about end games, we talk about how to not blunder your pieces, all that kind of good stuff. But I do give you some opening recommendations if you don't really have anything that you play. So when we play the Stonewall, we go for this setup. Okay, now it's maybe not the best against the King's Indian setup, but you can still play it. And the nice thing about the Stonewall is it's pretty much against whatever your opponent does, it's going to be a solid setup. Okay, so you're going to see what this looks like here. We're going to put this pawn on c3, and you get this zigzag formation. You get a nice grip on e5, and kind of there's two weaknesses to the Stonewall, which we'll talk about more as the game progresses. Number one is this bishop here. We leave it stuck in, okay? And temporarily, that's a problem. I'm going to go ahead and castle. I don't need c3 right now, so I'll just get my king to safety. Temporarily, it's a problem, but we have ways to get that guy out. For example, there's always this maneuver you can do to bring it over here, which can be useful. Or sometimes pawns end up getting traded, and the bishop just opens up naturally as the game goes on. That's another option as well. The other weakness in the Stonewall sometimes is this e4 square. If black really wants to, they can try to play like d5 and jump their knight in early. Now, our opponent is not doing that. Excuse me, I apologize. So we don't have to worry about that in this case. Okay, so whenever I see the knight come here, I usually want to defend this bishop. And so I'm going to play the move c3. So this is the typical Stonewall pawn formation. And I'm keeping this bishop defended from any pesky knight moves. And, you know, like I said, against the King's Indian, it's not as effective as it can be in some of the other variations. But I still think at some point in the future, we might be able to put some pressure on these squares. Okay, so I have two options here. I could, number one, just chase that guy away immediately and probably force the trade and bring out my queen, which looks fine. I could also bring my knight here and recapture with the knight. So I don't know which one is necessarily better. They're just kind of different. I think I will go ahead. This is also a good square for the queen to be on because it helps support these pawn pushes. So like e4, g4, we can be very aggressive, which is usually how I like to play this. So e5, I think that's a good move by our opponent. They're trying to bust open the center here. So let's think about this carefully, because first of all, if I take here, it does open up the f-file, which I kind of like the look of that. If I don't take, they can't really push here unless they're willing to lose a pawn, so I don't have to worry about that. Sometimes what you can do is take once and then push by. In this case, I don't think we can. We would lose a pawn. So I could just push by right away and then support that, maybe with one of these pawns. Let's say I push. The knight's probably going to go to e7, which is going to be attacking my d5 pawn. I could play e4 or c4 at that moment. c4, bring my knight out. That looks pretty good. I think I am going to do that, because if I let black just sort of start taking and busting things open, the bishop's going to get more powerful and the queen's going to be involved. And I don't think that's the right approach. So I'm going to play d5, keep the center a bit closed off for now, and try to attack on the king side. General principle is if you're trying to attack on the flank, you don't really want the center to be busted open, okay? And vice versa is also true. If somebody's attacking you on a flank, you want to open up the center. So I'm trying to avoid that with my next couple of moves here. So I'm thinking c4 now. Now let's just compare between c4 and e4. What's the difference here? e4 lets the bishop out here. c4 opens up this square for my knight to jump to c3. e4 is not a possibility at the moment. Maybe in the future it could be. I suspect black's going to play c6. I might actually end up playing both of these moves anyway. So I don't know if it really matters. I'll start with e4. I'll start with e4, but I think I'm going to probably play c4, knight c3 next anyway. Something is stuck in my throat. Okay. So they take. Now, that's interesting because they do open up the diagonal, but they also open up the F file. I think I'm just going to develop the piece and keep an eye on this and probably just continue the developing. So this is what I was talking about earlier. Sometimes this happens where that bishop just naturally, the position just opens up and it just can come out regularly. If that didn't happen, I probably would have at some point done this maneuver. Okay, now that's not a maneuver that I'm going to do right away because it takes some time. But once all the other pieces are kind of developed and I'm not really sure what to do, then I could definitely consider that. Okay, so yeah, this makes sense. They're trying to attack here and win the pawn. I'm considering c4, but we do have to pay attention to this guy. Okay, now the thing is, for example, let's say c4. Let's say black sacks this knight, takes here. I move my knight, they take my rook. I'm actually happy with that trade because I'm going to get two pieces and they lose their bishop, which usually defends the king. So that looks fine to me. Let's check knight h5 attacking me here. I could play knight c3. I would have to lose the bishop, which is not ideal. So do I have any other options? Well, I mean, I guess we could always trade, but I didn't really want to do that. My knight really would like to be on c3. There is this move bishop g5, which might be pretty nice, actually, because bishop g5 forces black to make a decision about the knight. You can't just take me. You have to move your knight, but where do you move it to? You go here, it looks like it's probably going to get trapped. You can't go here or here, so you have to move it probably back here. Yeah, that actually looks very annoying for black, so I think I will do that. So I'm indirectly dealing with this threat on d5 by putting pressure on this knight, which is also attacking here, and now they have to move it away. So I defended d5 in a weird way. And at the same time, unleashed this battery here, which is potentially quite dangerous for black. Of course, it's defended at the moment, but maybe that'll change in the future. So I think they're going to go knight d7 and try to jump into e5. Ooh, okay, that's what they probably should have done. This, like I said, I think is a mistake. I think we can trap the knight. So let me think about this. g4, knight can't move here, 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 here. The only thing they could do would be counterattack my bishop. Now, if they counterattack this way, do you guys see what I can do? Well, probably just throw in the trade. Force them to recapture, then we get the knight. Okay, now, what if they play f6? That's the only move that I'm not sure about, but I think I actually see a solution. Do you guys see it? I'll just move my bishop back somewhere. And the knight's going to still be trapped, right? So let's go g4. There's a saying in chess, knights on the rim are grim. That's what we're seeing here. It's just trapped. Now, if they would have played here, I think they were in better shape. Okay, that's a move I didn't consider, but that just loses a piece, right? Takes. It's just a free piece, so I don't even have to take over here. I could also move this bishop, for example, here. And if they try to save their knight that way, I come in on f6. But I don't even think I need to get fancy. I'll just grab the piece right here, and my queen still invades. So there we go. Tactic there that our opponent didn't see, and now we're just up a piece. Okay, if I take that, they take me. If I recapture, we are going into an endgame, which is actually pretty good when you're ahead. The only thing is, this is such a weakness that I'm just wondering what happens if I try to get my pawn up there. Is that doable? And the answer is, I don't think so, because even if, like, let's just say h4, they take h5, they could play something like maybe knight d5, and my queen's going to have to leave, I think. So since I can't actually force that, I think I will just be happy to go to the endgame and trade some pieces. So we'll take this. I assume they're going to take me. And let's just go ahead and keep it simple. We'll go to the endgame. So it's not over yet. We still have to be accurate and careful. And then the top priority right now is that I develop these pieces. Okay, so I'm going to just move this guy here. I'm keeping an eye out for like forks and stuff, but that's not a fork. It's just a simple attack. Yeah, and I can just move somewhere. Do I want to attack it, or do I want to just go here? The here is important a lot of times because you want to control the second rank. I think I will just do that. Because, like, for example, you don't ever want this happening in the future. So I'm going to go ahead and solve that problem right now. And then we can bring this other rook over, maybe pin this guy. Yeah, I think we'll do that. Remember, trading is good for me, and so I'm happy to go here and just trade everything. If you imagine if the rooks and the knights were all gone, we would just have 5 pawns against 6 pawns, except I have an extra bishop. That's going to be easy for me to win. So, okay. I see what they're trying to do. They're hoping that I recapture, and they're going to come down here. Good idea in theory, but what's the problem? Well, I take here first with check, and now I take it. And they ended up losing another piece in that process, right? So they had a good idea, it just didn't work. All right, let me just move my king up, get away from the checks. And we do have the rook defending here, so I don't even have to worry about that. What's the simplest and easiest thing to do? If I could force a trade, that would be one thing. I don't know that I can force it, but I will attack it. And I'm going to reposition my bishop over here so that it's defended and not a liability for me. And there you go. Let's just go ahead. Now we have a pawn here that we're going to be able to win because it's pinned. And the rook can't really do anything because I have all these extra pieces, right? Okay, do you guys see the problem with that one? They just forgot about the knight. All right, and there's the resignation. Okay, good game to our opponent. They had some good ideas. They just were a little bit careless with some of the tactics that didn't quite work out. The knight got trapped and some of those things. Very common at this level, right? When you get to 11, 1200, you start to see more advanced tactics, but you're still kind of missing certain things, right? And so it's very important that not only do you want to improve your tactics, you have to do it accurately. You can't have mistakes, otherwise it just doesn't work, right? Okay. Oh, we had 96.8. Wow, nice. Very solid game there. Okay, let's go to the next one. Oh, and we are 1200 exactly. We're 1200 exactly. All right. So again, we're going to go with the Stonewall. And against d5, I like to play e3 first because I really want to get my bishop to d3 as fast as possible to stop black from going there. Now, they do have one opportunity. They can play it immediately. They don't. They play e5. Okay. So e5 is one of those moves where you can't really play the Stonewall, okay? Because the Stonewall moves would be, you know, bishop d3. They're going to push on you. That doesn't make any sense. f4. They're going to push on you. That doesn't make any sense. Now you're all jammed up. You don't want a pawn sitting here stopping your pieces from being developed. So against e5, you just can't play the Stonewall anymore. You have to take it. You just have to take it. It's a good position for white, so there's nothing to worry about. It's going to be different. It's not going to be quite like a Stonewall, but that's fine. So now I'm just going to develop normally and just kind of play chess. Okay, they're attacking me. Obviously, they want to recapture the pawn. So how can I prevent that? Easiest thing, probably just to counterpin the knight. So let's just do that. They're pinned, I'm pinned, everybody's pinned, but I keep my pawn. Okay, they trade. Normally, I'm going to take with the queen. The only reason is if I want to like push this forward, get this weird zigzag pawn here. No, I'll just follow the normal principle. Get the queen out, keep the pawns nice and pretty so I can castle and have a safe king. I think that's the way to go. And again, this is still pinned, so we don't have to worry about our pawn. I might actually go b3 and defend it with my bishop. That could be an idea. Or not even worry about it, just get the king to safety and maybe start counterattacking on d5. Okay, they want to get rid of the pin because they want to take my pawn. So what should I do? Well, if I go back, then there's b5. And then I have to go back, and then they take me. I could take them. I still win a pawn. So it's either that or trade here. You know, I actually don't mind that. I feel like I'm losing my voice. I'm sorry, guys. I don't mind this. Okay, I was going to say just take, but I actually kind of like trading this pawn for this pawn. Because mine's a doubled pawn anyway. And so it's kind of weak. And so trading it for this means now I'm just up a clear pawn and I have no weaknesses. So I think that's a good decision. Let's go here. We are threatening checkmate. Okay, so they take. Very good. So this is what I was talking about. Now my extra pawn is right here. Very well defended. Black has no way to get it back easily, and I think we're in pretty good shape. Okay, where should we keep the bishop? Bishop b3, bishop e4, bishop here. I don't really like giving up my bishop for the knight for no reason, so I think I'm going to go here and try to hold on to this guy for a little bit. Let me go bishop to b3. Bishop to e4, I would have just got chased around by the other knight, so I didn't want to do that. And so this is kind of the only square. Now I have to watch out for the pawns pushing forward, but I'll have time to move my pawns or do something and create space for my bishop. Actually, c5, I probably would have went to d5. All right, anyway. I think we want to castle and get the king to safety. Let's just do that. Also, we might want to use the rook on the open file. Okay, so let's just check. Is there a threat? Not really. Knight g4 is not a big deal. There's no queens on the board, so I could just play h3 and we're fine. All right, that's fine. Let's see. These guys need to come out. So we could play e4 to let the bishop out. We could bring the knight out immediately. I like e4. I think that's a good square, and I do want to get this bishop out. So yeah, let me go ahead with e4. I think I'm going to put my bishop on e3. Now, let me ask you guys a question. If I go bishop f4, what's the thing that I have to be concerned about? If I go bishop f4, I have to be concerned about the discovered attack on my bishop. So for example, knight f3 check. Even though I could take the knight, I would lose my bishop, messes up my pawn structure, opens up my king. So that's what I want to avoid. Okay? So I think I will just go bishop e3 like I mentioned, although there is knight g4, which is actually pretty annoying. So maybe I'll play h3 to stop that. But no, I don't want to play h3 right now when I have so many pieces undeveloped. I want to make sure I get some pieces out. So let's go knight c3 first. And then, since this is my last piece, I'll probably play h3 and put it on e3. But you want to make sure you don't fall too far behind in development playing these pawn moves. That's why I'm going to make sure I have another piece out. Just gives myself more options. And, oh, you know what? I just noticed something. Never mind. I just noticed something. I'm going to play bishop e3. So I'm actually hoping that they do play knight g4. Because now I have a tactic. Do you guys see what the tactic is if they play knight g4? It's bishop e6 check. There is a nice little fork. Ooh. And they fell for it. Okay, so they're going for their own fork. But they forgot about this fork. The exceptional fork from the bishop. There we go. And you know, I didn't see it at first, but I saw it later. And it's those little tactics that sometimes allow you to do things that at first glance don't seem possible, right? Like I thought, nope, I can't go there. I'm going to get forked. But wait a second. I can because I have this exceptional fork here. Okay. So bishop's under attack. I'm just thinking like where do I want to move it to? I think maybe just all the way back or here. I'm anticipating black's going to throw these pawns forward. I don't really want to have to keep getting my bishop chased around. That's why I'm going to go all the way back instead of right here. Okay. So I'm not really worried about this because the pawns still have like a bunch of moves to go before they can actually do anything. I think I'm just going to put a rook on an open file. And again, I'm ahead material, so trading benefits me, so I'm going to look for opportunities to trade. Okay, where's the knight going? Should I play f4? Take. No, that doesn't quite work. I could play g3 to try to play f4. I feel like this knight is my worst piece, honestly, because it just can't really go anywhere. I really would like to activate this knight. If I could push this pawn, it would have a nice square. I'm almost even wondering if I could sack that pawn just so that my knight can come into the party. The other thing that I could do, which is quite simple, is just doubling up my rooks here, which seems pretty good. Maybe I'll just do that. I want to just activate my pieces. Basically, when I have a position, let me go back here for a second. When I have a position like this, I want to ask myself which pieces are good and which pieces are not so good. And I want to try to make the pieces that are not so good better. So this bishop looks amazing to me, right? This bishop looks amazing to me. The knight, not so much. I can't move it anywhere. I mean, it's on a good square, but I just can't move it anywhere. This rook doesn't really do much. So that's why by going here and doubling up, now my rooks, guess what, are doing something very useful. And actually, we have a nice pin here that black has allowed us to create. And so what do you guys think I'm going to do? This one should be relatively straightforward. I say that. The move I was thinking of was bishop c5. And my idea is that if they take me, I take them and I'm happy. There's a problem with that move, though. Do you guys see what it is? There's a problem with that move. They don't have to take my bishop. They can take me here with check. And when I take back, guess what? I lose a rook. That's the problem. So I have to leave the bishop defending the rook at the moment. I think I will play g3 because I'm also looking at taking this pawn, but I don't want to get into trouble. Actually, I wouldn't get into trouble. I could take that. So I actually could take the pawn. I actually could. All right, I'll take the pawn. I was going to say I don't want to worry about something like this, but it's not a problem. Because if they ever move the rook away, I just take their bishop. Okay. Well, guess what? Now I'm thinking about this, but no, now it's defended by this. So it doesn't quite work. Interesting. So I'm just looking for tactics, some way to bust through here. It's actually a pretty interesting position. I feel like I should get away from the checks. So I'm going to go... Actually, I have to watch out for knight c4. Yeah, knight c4 is actually a powerful move. Okay, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to bring the bishop back first. I want to control all the squares that the knight might go to. And then I'm going to think about getting my king off of the dark squares because there's all these tactics with a check, and just sometimes just moving your king one square over just eliminates all those tactics, right? So that's what I think I might do next. Of course, if there's a easier or simpler way to deal with it, then you just do that. But if not, sometimes just sliding the king can be the solution that you need. Yeah, I think king f1 is where I want my king to be. If a rook ever comes over here to attack me, I could always just play h3. And that looks pretty safe. King h1 actually makes sense too, though, because then it's just defended. So if a rook comes over, it's just defended. We're not really worried about the bishop because if they move, we take it. And I could play g3 if I needed to block it off. So yeah, I'm torn between which square. Maybe h1 actually is fine. There's also something to be said for bringing it closer to the center, though, towards the end game. So that's another point for it. F1. Okay, so they're going to allow me to trade, which, remember, I'm ahead material. So I'm happy to trade. I'm happy to trade as much as they want, right? Let's trade everything. That's great. Okay, so I think, you know, whenever you have an endgame like this, you want to look at the part of the board where you have the pawn majority, where you have more pawns than your opponent. This is the section of the board. So this is where I'm going to focus. So I'm going to play the move g3 so that I can play either h4 or f4 and start to get my pawns rolling. Okay, I'm not worried. Yes, it's going to mess up my pawn structure, but it doesn't really matter over here. I still have 3 pawns against 3. Doesn't matter. I'm going to push. More important that I get my pawns rolling over here on the majority than worry about this knight over here. So if they take, I take. And what I have done is create a passed pawn right here that they have to worry about, right? That's a big deal. And so what do you think I'm going to do? Push the pawn, right? Push the pawn down the board. And knights are very bad at stopping flank pawns. So black is going to have a hard time here, especially with my bishops. Okay, so now I think I'm going to put the bishop here and play e5. Wow. Yeah, let's do that. Let's go bishop d3. We're going to go e5, push the pawn, force the knight to capture. Otherwise, we'll get a queen. Really, it's pretty basic stuff. And I don't see how black can stop that. Okay, let's go e5. They're trying to, do something here, but I'm not going to wait around. We're going to immediately create the threat. Okay, that's an interesting move, but it doesn't really change my plan. I'm going to go here. They have to take me. They don't have time to take my bishop. I will just get a queen. They have to take me, and I will take their knight. I mean, they don't have to take me, but okay. Yeah, this is not good because a queen is too powerful, right? You can't do this. And they can't even go because it's covered, right? Also, I'm going to start taking everything. Let's just take this, I guess. Maybe they thought they could get a queen here. Maybe that's what it was. So, yeah, that's not good for black. Let's see, how do we finish off the game? Let me take this pawn, bring my queen close to the king. And I'm looking for like tactics to get rid of this knight. So for example, if they take, I'm probably going to go check. Actually, no, it's pinned. It's pinned. So that's what I'm talking about. Tactic, win the knight. There it is. This is, of course, still guarded, so I'm not worried about that. Okay, if they want to take me, fine. But first, I'm going to do this with check. And now we could save our knight if we want. We could look for checkmates here. Let's bring the knight in. Should be relatively straightforward. Okay. Let me go check with the bishop. Let's see. Is there checkmate immediately? Looks like mate in 2. So we'll go check. Oh, actually, that's not mate in 2. That's mate in 3. Anyway, you get the idea. All right. Good game to our opponent. Let's analyze this one. Okay, 89, 78. Yeah, they played pretty well. Apart from what we already talked about, I think we can just safely go to the next game. All right, white again. We're going to get lots of Stonewall practice in this video. So, okay. I'm glad that they play this because this is an interesting thing to talk about. So, I was really trying to get my bishop there before black. Okay, because I wanted to get control of that diagonal. They beat me to it. Okay, so there's a couple of ways you can play this. Number one, if you like aggressive, kind of getting tricky and putting the pressure on your opponent, the way that I would play is c4. And the idea is I'm going to go queen b3 right away and attack this b7 pawn that they are no longer defending. Okay, and it's actually quite tricky. The other thing that you can do, and I'll play this way in this game just for something different to do, is you can just go there anyway. And then you keep doing the Stonewall exactly like you would, except the bishops have been traded. Now, that's not ideal. I actually would prefer to have the bishops on the board, because a lot of times their bishop is a bad bishop stuck over here. But the nice way about playing this way is it's very simple for you. You're not going to get into any trouble. You can still follow the normal plan. We're going to get the same zigzag pawn formation. Everything else is going to be normal. Knights are going to be developed. We castle. We do all the normal Stonewall stuff, right? So if you like it to be simple, this is what I would recommend you play against that. If you're okay with it mixing things up a little bit, then you can go for the, c4 move that we talked about. I'm going to develop my knight. So I can jump into e5 here. Yeah, that's a good move. They're getting control of that, which is fine. I'm going to go ahead and castle. A lot of times when this happens, you just kind of have to play around it. That's a weakness of the Stonewall, right? That's because you push your pawns forward. But you just play around it. I mean, it's not the end of the world. Okay, I will go here and attack it. So now black's probably going to play f5 or trade, maybe. And if they play f5, then we have sort of a Stonewall against Stonewall. Okay, I don't know what that's all about. I think I can win a free pawn. I'm not sure if knight b4 does something to me. Queen b5 check. c6. I take a pawn. They go the rook. Take another pawn. Yeah, it looks like I can probably get away with just winning a pawn. So I think black should have probably played f5 to defend this. I'm going to go ahead and take it. And if they would have played f5, it was going to be interesting because then they give us the e5 square, but they have the e4 square, and it's very symmetrical. All right, yeah, so now we're very happy. We got the pawn. They lost control. Yeah, this is not a good plan because it's already defended. So what am I going to do? I think I'm just going to play c3. There's a pawn here, but I don't know if I want it. I don't know if I want it. Rook b8. I have to take. Then they jump in. Yeah, it looks... Well, there is some tactics there. Queen a4 is a fork. I could take some pawns, actually. I was going to play c3. This is just sticking with the normal, formation. But this is actually annoying for black now that I look at it. All right, I will take the pawns. Normally, you have to be very careful grabbing these pawns. But my king is safe. My center is solid. I'm relatively well developed. There's only one piece that's not developed, and it's actually supporting this pawn here. Okay. What should I play? Pause the video. What should I play? Well, hopefully you said queen c6. It is a fork. And we're going to win a piece. And even better than that, black has to play king f8, because if they played queen d7, we were going to get a rook instead. But king f8 is a bad move because you can't castle. And when you can't castle, your rook is stuck in the corner and you can't come into the game. So not only do I get the knight, I also got them to not castle, which is a bonus. So it's amazing, amazing situation that we have here. Up a piece, king can't castle, we can attack the king. This is a dream, okay? It's exactly what we want to happen. So okay, I was going to say maybe I'll bring my knight in. They stopped that. So what's the worst piece in the position for me? This bishop. What am I going to do? Figure out a way to get it into the game. Let's go bishop d2. Even just one square, it still connects my rooks, gets them off of, or gets the bishop off the back. Okay, king f7. I see what they're trying to do. Now, I have a fancy move that I'm considering. The fancy move is knight e5 check. Now, my idea is I don't want them to be able to bring their rook into the game. So if I can play knight e5 check and force the king back, I'm super happy. Of course, what we have to calculate is what happens if they just take me, right? But then I would take back with check. And you can't block with your bishop unless you're willing to just lose a piece. You can't run up here because of the queen. So you have to either go to e8 or to g8. And again, they have now blocked in their rook. I think that is definitely worth a piece sacrifice. I do get a pawn. But what I'm more importantly getting is a massive attack on the king because the rook is going to be stuck in the corner. This is such a bad thing that I think it's worth the piece. I definitely think it's worth the piece. Also, we open up the f-file, and my queen is kind of ready to jump in and start attacking. All of those things make me feel like this is definitely worth it. So the question is, where is the weakest spot now that we need to attack in black's camp? And I think it's here and here. 2 squares. So this one, if like, for example, if my queen could just teleport there, that's checkmate. Or this, if I could attack that. So how do I do that? Well, I'd love to play queen f5, but unfortunately I just lose my queen. I can't go to g6. So c4 seems like an option. b3, c6. These are the squares where I could try to sneak in and put pressure here. I like c6. Do you know why I like c6? Because it hits the rook as well as the pawn. Now there's this move queen d5, but no, then I'm going to take on c7. Yeah, I think queen here is definitely the way to go. It's not really obvious how white's or how black defends that. I think they have to play queen d5. Then I grab this pawn. Yeah. The other thing is like queen e4 and try to come over this way somehow. Queen d5. Yeah, I'm gonna go queen c6. I think this is okay because I grab another pawn. I'm attacking other things as well. And yeah, I think black is gonna have a hard time not getting checkmated here because this is just such a bad setup, right? You don't want you need your rook to be on the other side of the king. That's how chess is supposed to be played. That's why castling is a move, right? And you could just see the difference, right? It's almost the exact same setup, except black is in a massive trouble and I'm not, right? Okay, we'll take the pawn with check. And we're invading on those light squares. They're going to go here. Let's see, we have quite a few options. You can always start with the queen checks. Okay, always start with the queen checks just because it might be checkmate or it might lead to checkmate. Check, king goes here. Check, king goes here. Doesn't lead to checkmate, unfortunately. Okay, so what's the next best thing that I could do? Well, bring in more pieces. So rook f7, right? Attacks the bishop, attacks here. And also, this is important, something that a lot of people don't think about. When you bring your rook up like this, you are clearing the way for, guess what? The other rook to come over. So it's like a really powerful move for multiple reasons. So I think that's what I'm going to do, rook f7. 7th rank invasion, puts pressure on something by the king, immediately has a threat, and clears the way for the other rook all at the same time. Whenever you have a move that does multiple things, usually a pretty good move, right? So obviously they have to deal with the immediate threat on the bishop. They go there. I mean, I could play g3 and just sort of trap the bishop. If it goes here, we have h4. So that's one plan. But I don't know if that's the best plan because I really do want to get this other rook involved. I really do. Yes, because here's the thing, guys. Once the rook is involved, I have an immediate checkmate. Takes, checkmate. By the way, this is an important mating pattern. Yeah, let's play rook f1. This is an important mating pattern. When you take here, the king takes, the queen goes there. Whenever the queen is attacking the king and there's pieces, knight move away from the queen, it's always going to be checkmate. Okay, this is one of the mating patterns that we talk about in the Breaking 1500 course. There's a whole module on tactics, like 20-something lessons on all different kinds of tactics. And one of them is just mating ones with the queen, where you have to get familiar with that pattern. Okay, they didn't see it. They played queen b8. I'm not sure what the idea is, but this tactic is just sitting there, right? And you could see how having the other rook to help plays a role in that. So this is what I'm talking about. We take with check, and the queen is going to land next to the king. It is supported. It can't be captured. And there's pieces. Knight moves away from the queen. That's always going to be checkmate. Okay? Always going to be checkmate. Game review. A good game to our opponent. Okay, 83-61. So I guess we made a mistake somewhere along the way there. I wonder what it was. Let me just verify that really. Oh, queen takes b7. Engine didn't like that. Let's see why. See why I didn't like that. Yeah, so it wanted me to play c3, which is what my first move was going to be c3, actually. And then I was like, I changed. So let's see why it was not as good. Because of the move c6. Aha. That's interesting. And if I just attack the knight, rook b8, and if I take rook a8, aha. And my queen is trapped, and you can go back and forth. How about that? Wow, well, that's the stockfish reason for why you don't take those pawns. And I said it, right? I was like, you got to be really careful taking these pawns. Wow, look at that. C6, and then rook back and forth. Okay, no human is going to see that unless it's like a grandmaster in a long time control game. Anyway, that was the mistake. Okay, let's keep going. All right, so we get black. So now you're going to get a chance to see the Owens defense. Okay, this is the other opening that I teach in the Breaking 1500. And so if you like this style and you want more details, definitely go check it out. Links in the description, or you go to breaking1500.com. But we're going to fee and kettle the bishop over here. We're going to play e6, and you're pretty much going to play these moves every time unless your opponent does something super crazy. We're going to play knight f6. I want to get control over this e4 square, and I'm going to play bishop b4 probably. Yeah, I think I will do that right now. I could also go bishop e7 to break the pin. It's a toss-up. We'll go bishop b4. This is usually where the bishop goes. You could also go to e7 if they're pinning you, but we'll go to b4. So yeah, basically when you play the Owen's defense, you are trying to control these light squares, and white walks right into it because this is pinned. Okay, so what am I going to do? Well, my knight's pinned, so I can't take it with the knight, but I can take it with the bishop. And that's just a free pawn. Thank you very much. You would be amazed at how often this happens at the 1200 rating and below. They just don't realize that the pawn is just hanging, right? Because it looks like it's defended, I guess, or something. I don't know. It's very common. Very, very common. I talk about this in the course where you just win their pawn half the time. So already on move 6, we're off to a borderline winning position. We've got an extra pawn. You know, if you trade everything else, you go to the end game, you're going to win. All right, so bishop e2, they want a castle, obviously, which is fine. I want a castle too. I think I will. And there's one thing that you have to remember when you play the Owens. When you have the pin, as soon as they castle, the pin is no longer there. My opponent is chatting to me, saying that e3 was a better move. Yes, I think they are right. As soon as they castle, the pin is no longer there, right? So as soon as they castle, I'm going to take the knight. That's what you have to remember. Otherwise, you just lose a piece, right? There you go. So we take that. Very good. So I'm going to play h6. Maybe they'll trade. And I would be happy because I don't have to worry about the pin. Okay, and if they go back, that's fine. This is kind of a useful move in these situations because there's no pieces that can jump here. If I need to move my bishop back, I can. If I ever need to get away from a back rank checkmate, I can. And if I need to, at some critical moment in the game, break this pin because I want to use my knight, guess what? I can throw g5 forward. Now, that's a very committal move. My king is there. I'm going to save that for... It has to be really valuable, right, for me to do that. But it's an option, and I get all that stuff by playing h6. So it doesn't cost me any time. That's the other thing. It doesn't cost me any time because I'm attacking the bishop, right? They have to waste a move. So that's why we did that. Now I need to get this guy into the game. Now, there's quite a few ways we could do this. So this is a little bit tricky. We could play something like d5 just to support my bishop and then move my knight maybe here. Or we could play d6, which is what I normally would do. Knight c6 and jump around here is an idea sometimes, but no. So I'm going to play d6. And the reason I'm going to go d6 instead of d5, actually c5 is another move that's pretty good too. But I think we'll save that for later. The reason I'm going to go d6 instead of d5, when you play d5, the pawn is forward and can never come backwards. So squares like e5 now are a target for your opponent. Okay, imagine if this guy was up here. They could just jump right in. And I'm going to have a hard time getting rid of that knight. But when I play d6, there are no weaknesses for pieces to jump in. I'm controlling everything, right? I'm controlling all these squares. That's why I kind of like this setup. d5, interesting. So first things first, can we win a pawn? Takes. Sorry, takes. No, because of the pin here, we're going to be getting into trouble. Okay. So usually when they push on me like this, the best solution is to push by. And what happens is they have created a hole right here on c5. So guess what I'm going to do? My knight is going to just jump right in there. Okay? So a lot of times when you play these kind of passive pawn formations, you wait for till they push, then you can push by, and then there's a hole you can take advantage of. That's a very common, what's the word? You know, sequence of events that happens that you can kind of remember and use in your games. Okay? So yeah, knight d7, knight c5, super obvious plan here. And like I said, that bishop is now cut off this way, but we did play h6. We've got plenty of options for it to come back this way if we need to. if it ever gets attacked or something. And so I'm not concerned about that. Okay, so I don't really like that it's under attack. Now the bishop doesn't have anywhere good to go at the moment, so I'm not concerned, but I'm definitely going to try to pay attention to that. Okay, so let's go knight d7. Defends here, but also it's ready to jump into this amazing square. Okay, so they do attack me. Of course, I think now we just simply trade. Get rid of the bishop and probably just jump the knight in. I don't think I even need to do anything else. Of course, check if we have a fork. No, we do not because of the pin. You know, I say that. So this could be a moment. Remember earlier I was talking about g5 to get rid of the pin? This could be a moment. For example, g5, bishop goes back, e4. Okay, it's a fork. Now, it's not that amazing of a fork because white could sacrifice, takes. They get a knight and a pawn for a rook. So it's a good trade for me, but I have to totally open up my king to do it. Right? I don't want to do that. My position is so solid. My position is so great. Why would I give that up if I don't have to, right? So, because of that, oh, I just had an idea. Ooh, okay, wait a second. I was going to say I'm just going to play knight c5 and be happy with my position, but I'm thinking about playing e4 now. The idea is if they take me, I recapture with the knight and it's still defended. I don't have to expose my king to do it. If they take with the rook because they have a pin, I can go knight c5, which is a fork. It's just a simple fork. And again, I'm going to be winning material. And I don't have to expose my king to do it. Actually, that looks like a pretty nice move. Okay, so there we go. Little tactic. This is an advanced one, by the way. So don't feel bad if you didn't see this. And by the way, if you just played knight c5, I think your position would be absolutely amazing. Nothing at all wrong with knight c5. But I do think this tactic works, so I'm going to go ahead and play it. Okay, they just capture it right away. Let's go with the fork. Okay. So we're just basically leaving this saying, that's fine, it's pinned, I'm not going to use it, who cares? I have another knight that's going to fork these pieces. So I'm going to get a rook for a knight and a pawn, which is good. Actually, it might even be better than that, because if they take me, I will just take it. It is better than that, yeah. So we're actually just up a rook. Unfortunately, it's falling apart for white here. They could try taking here, but rather than take with the queen and lose my knight, I will simply recapture with the knight, and we're in good shape. Okay, so they take there. Of course, we get a free queen, we lose a queen, but then we get a bishop. That's fine. I'm ahead. I want to trade, so trading is great. Okay, which way should I take? Probably would want this rook to go here, and so I think I'll use this one. But realistically, it's not going to matter too much which way here. Okay, so we're just up a rook. Owen's defense for the win. Check out Breaking 1500 if you want more information on that opening. Okay, defends the pawn. Let's go ahead and get the rook on the open file. There's only one open file on the board, so it's pretty straightforward. Ooh, I do see a tactic that opens up now that we have our rook here. Do you guys see what it is? Well, it has to do with the back rank. I'm going to take this pawn because if the rook takes me, guess what? Checkmate. So I just got a free pawn, essentially. You can't take that. Okay. They don't take it, but they fall for something else. Do you guys see what it is? Correct. An exceptional fork. That is an exceptional fork. Maybe not. It's just a fork, but there is this. Okay, they do resign. Yeah. So good game to our opponent. That was tough. Let's Check the game review. Yeah, 96. I felt like we didn't really make too many mistakes there. So, super common in the Owens defense where you get that pawn. Okay, this happens a lot. They're not really paying attention to the pin over here, and then bam, you just grab it. Okay, different variations, but that's very, very common. Let's jump to the next game. Okay, let's do it again. B6. Bishop B7, safe enough pre-move. 2 pawns in the center. Immediately we're attacking it. Let's go E6. Okay, bishop B5. Now, that's not a good move because it's not attacking anything. I'm not worried about that pawn. I wasn't going to move that pawn anyway. And so I don't really like that move. Also, you have to be even more careful now because your G2 square is weak. So, what am I going to do? Well, bishop B4. And we are threatening to just take on E4 here. Now, if they play F3, this might get very interesting very fast. So there's a tactic against F3 that has to do with the fact that you can take here. The knight is pinned, so they have to take with the pawn. And then you can go queen check. And what you're doing is basically saying, if you block with G3, I grab here. Remember, the knight is pinned the whole time. I grab here with a fork. So you don't really want to play G3, so you have to like move your king somewhere, and then your king just gets attacked. So I was definitely going to consider that. Now, they played a different move, which I think is a better move. They are defending. So, what we're going to do is keep attacking. Knight comes out next. So again, threatening to take the pawn. F3. So again, I have the question. Can I play this move? Takes, takes, check. Okay. If they play G3, we could take. They take. I take. Their rook is actually trapped, which is amazing. That would work fine. The only problem is, what if they don't? What if they just move their king? If they just move their king, I could take here. Let's say they take me. Then I could take with my bishop. My bishop is jumping in. It's good, but I don't know if it's good enough. And I don't know if it's worth sacrificing a piece to do it. Definitely very interesting. I wonder if there's some special tactic that I'm missing. Takes, takes, check. I think king F1 is the best move. Takes, takes, takes. So we would end up getting 2 pawns for our knight. Yeah, it's probably not quite good enough, but I'm very tempted to play. All right, I don't think it's going to work. So what can we do instead? We can play A6 just to kick the bishop. Ideally, if it goes here, then bam, we hit it with D5 and we fork these. Now that's an exceptional fork, I think. We could also just castle the king to safety. C5 is another move to put pressure on the center this way that I like to keep in mind. Yeah, I think probably what's the most important? I think getting the king to safety is important. So let's just castle. I think that's important. Let's just castle. General rule, you want to get the king to safety before you start busting open the center and stuff. All right, so we have a pin. We do have to be careful. For example, E5 could be annoying. All right, so I'm not going to wait around for that to happen. I'm going to figure out something. Now, I'm not sure what just yet, but we're going to figure out something. I'm going to go A6. I think A6 is a useful move here. And I'm seeing if they're going to go to C4, because then they walk into D5. They're probably going to go to A4 if they're smart. Okay, they do. And I'm still considering the move C5, because now what happens after C5 is that I'm threatening B5, followed by C4. The only issue is, what about this pin here? What about this pin? So again, this might be a moment where I'm going to throw in this move because I might need G5 to break the pin. I might need G5 to break the pin. Yeah, so I think we go C5. It's going to get kind of wild here, but this is kind of how you have to play. You sit back, and then at the right moment, you need to strike at the center and start to do some stuff. And I think we're at that moment here. I think we're going to go c5. It's going to get pretty crazy. Let's go. So we have a threat. b5, c4. It's going to win a piece over here. Yes, white has their own threat. Very good. So g5 is now an option to me. If they take me, I take them. Scary, but I don't see a move for the queen. The queen can't come in. I'm going to take that very soon and be happy. If they just go back, then I'll move my knight here. So you could see why throwing in this move was useful. Let's go g5. It's going to get wild. Sometimes you have to do this. It's not how I like to play, but sometimes the game just goes down a path and you have to find the best move and play it, even if it's a crazy looking move like that, right? Oh, interesting. They just want to sack the bishop that way. Okay, that's fine. We'll take it. Okay, so we could take back immediately, but I think I want to go get this piece first. I don't see how white's going to be able to defend that, so I can take it next move. Not a big deal. Let me go b5. I want to trap the bishop here and win this piece. Then I'll start defending my king. Now, it's important that the queen can't just, like, you know, magically teleport over to h6, or I would just lose, right? But it can't. And if they try to do something like this, I would have time to take the pawn. That's very important, okay? That's why I'm not panicking about doing it right at this moment. I'm going for this. Also, the knight can't come in because the pin, that's important. If they ever try to deal with that, I'm going to just trade the bishop. I don't want that knight jumping in here, okay? Okay, so they take. Let's go ahead and recapture. We got the piece. That's good. Interesting move. My initial reaction is like, can I trap their queen? Bishop a6 takes away the diagonal. Looks like they could still go to a4. Interesting. Very interesting. I'm going to do it because my bishop was under attack anyway. This is a great diagonal, and a4 looks very, very bad for their queen. Looks like they're still going to get trapped somehow. Yeah, this is a kind of a wild position. So, okay, we can't move the bishop and trap it immediately because our rook is under attack, okay? We can't take here to take advantage of the pin because our bishop would be lost, okay? So the move that I'm going to play is knight c6 because it solves all those problems at the same time. Now my rook is defended. Now my bishop is defended. So I can take here if I want to take advantage of this. Or I can move this bishop and trap the queen because now my rook is defended. Oh, and there you go. I could also even just take that, actually. I could also just take that. Which one's better? Because I wanted to go here to trap the queen. But now I'm thinking I just take the piece. And then if the queen tries to escape, ooh, c4 traps it anyway. What a nasty queen trap. That is just... Oh. Yeah, I mean, the queen just doesn't have any squares, right? Look at that. Look at that. Look at that. c4. Wow. Okay, so we'll take the queen. And because I'm way ahead, trading is good, but it brings a pawn to the center, supports this. I don't want to do that. Let me just take a free pawn with check. Yes, trading is good, but this is even better, right? And my queen's going to come out now, and I could take the pawn. The pawn doesn't really bother me anymore because white doesn't have a queen to checkmate me, so I'm kind of thinking about being more aggressive. For example, queen b6. Yeah, let me go queen b6 because I'm going after the king. This is what I'm doing, right? We're setting up a discovered check. The knight can, for example, go here, which unleashes the queen, takes the rook. So he's trying to run away. The problem is you can run, but you can't hide. That's the problem. So what I'm going to do is... What am I going to do? There's knight f5, which looks very good because, yeah, I'm going to go knight f5. Because what knight f5 does is unleashes my queen, so you can't escape backwards. Yeah, you have to come forward. That's what I want. That's exactly what I want. If I go check, the knight can block. I could trade the knight, but then I can't go check. That's okay. I don't want the knight to be able to help. Let's go ahead and get rid of it. Now let's just see, how do we invade with the queen? How do we invade with the queen? Ah, there's queen e3 because I want to go to f4. That looks very good. Looks very good. Let's do that. Queen e3. I want to go here and here. That's going to be checkmate. They probably, okay, they didn't see it. I was going to say they had to play g3, and then I was going to probably go knight h6, but no, this is going to be checkmate. So here we go. Basically, when your opponent's king is like this, you just have to figure out how to get the queen close to the king. That's it. If you figure that out, there's going to be a checkmate that pops up. That's the key ingredient. Get the queen close to the king. There you go. Queen h4 is checkmate. Okay. So let's check the game review. Going to be 107 if I'm not mistaken. Okay, 89. Yep, played pretty well. And this was a good game because we really got to see, you know, how it got pretty crazy pretty fast, right? And this can happen in the Owens defense, and it's important that you look for those opportunities to strike at the center, okay? Let me see. Yeah, Stockfish actually doesn't like that as much. It just said d6. So you could also play it a bit more passively. And the idea is that if they push on you, now you can just meet it by capturing, trading the queen so that you're no longer in a pin, and you move your knight somewhere. Whoa, knight g4 hits the pawn. Brilliant move because of the trapped rook. Wow. Yeah, this also illustrates something about the Owens that's very nice. This bishop sometimes can be a monster, and when you pair these bishops together, you eliminate the knight, which supports these central light squares. You have the light squared bishop, and you just get all sorts of cool things that can pop up. I didn't even actually see that move, but that's a nice one. So more information about the Owens defense and the Stonewall, the openings that we saw today, breaking1500.com, or links in the description. It's open again today, and I'm excited to see you guys in there. There's going to be private group coaching and all kinds of cool stuff. So thanks for watching. I'll see you guys next time. As always, stay sharp, play smart, and take care.